So I don't know if I'm going to talk to here someone specifically or not. Maybe you're like, I don't even need a breakthrough. I'm good where I'm at. I'm comfortable. I'm getting paid well. Life is good. I'm great. And this may not be for me, but it may be. There's probably someone here who just is struggling with health, with emotional sickness, with physical sickness, with spiritual sickness. And we all somehow need a breakthrough. See, the life that we've chosen to call Christianity, the life that we've chosen after we've accepted God is not a life of comfort. It's a life of uncomfort, being not comfortable. Jesus said, carry your cross and follow me. He didn't say, chill in that blue chair with cushion and chill. He didn't say, it's okay to come to church and not reach anyone. It's okay. Are we making it comfortable for you? Did you have your cup of coffee today? Did you have your sweet bread? Are you okay where you're at? No, he said, you need to get up and follow me. Right? And we all need to break through somehow. We all are probably been in a situation or currently in a situation or might even go into a situation where they're like, God, I don't understand why this is going on. What's happening? I need a breakthrough. Right? And so how do we achieve a breakthrough? Step one, and these are not in 1, 2, 3, 4 order. These are just what came to mind and what God guided me through the Spirit. And I'm not saying one is more important than the other. I'm just saying these are steps you may want to follow. One, we need to recognize the current condition or situation. 2 Corinthians 13:5 says it this way: examine yourselves to see whether you are in faith. Test yourselves. Or do you not realize this about yourself, that Jesus Christ is in you? Examine your life. See where you're at. See where you've come from. See where you're at now and see where you may be going. Romans 3:23 says it this way: for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. See, just because we're in church doesn't make us perfect. Just because we're up here leading worship doesn't make us perfect. Just because pastor's pastor doesn't make him perfect. He's been chosen, but he's still human, and so am I, and so are you. See, when we examine ourselves and we look not at the superficial things, but deep down, it's where are you? Where we examine ourselves and we see where we've come from, we can be grateful where we're at, and we can be grateful to where we're going in faith. We need to examine ourselves. And this woman recognized that she needed help. This woman recognized her condition. The Bible tells us that she had been sick for 12 years. I have a daughter who's 10. I'm like, man, if you've been sick that long, that's crazy. Why didn't you go get help? And she did. See, the Bible tells us that she spent all her money in doctors, physicians, and no one could heal her, and it even grew worse. Luke 8:43 says, and there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years, and through it all she had spent all her living on physicians, and she could not be healed by anyone. Mark says it like this: and she had suffered much under many physicians and had spent all that she had, and she was no better, but rather grew worse. And I don't know if you've been in a condition where things get worse and worse. You feel like you're winning, but it just gets worse. You feel like there's some sort of, I finally made it, but then after that, things get worse. If you've been sick, if you've had a cough, and you go to a doctor, they give you, what do they give you, antibiotics? Nothing sometimes? Right? It depends on your medical plan. Right? You may just see the doctor like, all right, good for you. Right? And you go home like, man, this is getting worse. And the coughing turns into headaches, and now you have a headache and a cough and a runny nose and a sore throat, and it's just getting worse. Or you go into this marriage, and you're happy, you're excited, you say your ideals, and that first night you have a fight. And the second week you have a fight, and the third week you're like, I'm done, I am leaving. You thought it was going to go great. Or you come into this new job, you're excited about it, and you're like, oh man, this is not what I expected it to be. And it gets worse. Right? So went into college expecting great things, and you're just like, no. The schedule sucks. Professor sucks. I have no money to pay for books. I have no money to pay for class. I thought college was going to be great. Everyone talks about getting a higher education and doing well, but this sucks. And it gets worse. And it only goes downhill until it finally gets better. See, we need to examine ourselves. We need to understand where we're at right now. See, this woman, not only was she sick, she was tired, she was exhausted. 12 years of that disease. Right? I've only been married 5, or almost 5, not even 5. And I'm like, strength, God, strength. And so is my wife, and patience and understanding. Right? She had been sick for 12 years. And I don't know if you understand the disease or the sickness she had. Women definitely know it. Men may not fully understand it, but we got to go to the store and buy for certain few things every time of the month, right? But it was 12 years, and it got worse. She wasn't only sick, she was broke. The Bible says she spent everything she had trying to find a cure, trying to find something to fix her, to make her well. Every penny she had, to the point where she's now in the streets. And I don't know about you, I don't know if you drive around LA or not, but there are many spots where there's homeless communities, right? And in certain organizations that I work for, we've had chances and opportunities to talk to these people. And some of them, yeah, they've made bad decisions and they are paying some consequences. Some are not. Some because of decisions they made, some because they just don't have a helping hand. They're there, right? And some just, man, it's life. I've spent all I've had and I'm nowhere anymore. I have no more money. I went into my savings and I ran out of that, and this is where I'm at now. Right? She spent so much money, she's broke, she's in the streets now. Not only that, right? This keeps getting worse and worse and worse. She is deemed unclean by society. That means don't touch me, don't hang out with me, don't be near me. Right? So she looks at herself, she examines herself, she says, man, this sucks. I have no one to help me, nothing to do, no one's gonna be here for me. This sucks. I'm examining myself. But then she realizes and she hears about this great Jesus who's healing the sick, who's healing the blind. And we go into step 2. Step 2 for a breakthrough is set a goal and plan towards it, right? Great, I have examined myself. I look at myself, this situation sucks. What do I do now? You don't just sit there and regret it and lament, but you plan, you figure out a goal. All right, this is my goal. This is where I'm going to be in the next 6 months. And how do I get to that goal? You plan. Luke 14:28 says it this way. For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? You plan. I want something. It may cost me this. Let's figure out how to save that money and get it. Ephesians 5:15-16 says it this way. Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time because the days are evil. Making the best use of your time. That means if there's time to do something, let's do it. Let's plan, right? A few weeks ago, Vlad was here and he was preaching about what we do when God's given you a promise and how do we do it. And you plan, right? It's good to have a goal. It's good to be like, yo, I want to be a top 5 first-round pick for whatever football team, sports team. I want to be a doctor. I want to do this. It's good to have that goal, but now you need to plan towards it. And this woman did that. See, she set a plan. Matthew 9:21 says, she said to herself, if I only touch his garments, I will be made well. She recognized my goal is to be well. How do I get there? There's this Jesus that they're talking about. I need to at least just touch his clothing. Right? Just touch his clothing. So there was a plan. She's like, all right, now let's figure out how to get him here. Jesus was already walking to her, so that's not part of the plan. But it's like, how do I get around these people? Right? I'm deemed unclean. How do I get around these people without being noticed? Right? The Leviticus, and we're going to get to that in a bit. Leviticus says that the laws, when you were deemed unclean, if you touched something, that was also unclean. So imagine her planning is, I got to try not to touch people, because if I touch them, they're also unclean. That's the major plan. How did she do it? I have no idea. The Bible doesn't say it, but she says she planned. She said to herself, this is what I need to do. In that planning, she also changed her state of mind. See, she knew she had to get well. There's no point in just examining yourself and staying there. There's got to be a plan. There's got to be a goal. But you got to change your mindset, right? You look at me now, and the last 3 times I've preached, I've mentioned weight. and maybe I lost 2 or 3 pounds. Not as fast as I want, but I'm doing it. But if I would change my mindset and be like, yo, like, let's do this quickly and be self-disciplined, I'd be a little bit less rounder today, right? There's got to be a mindset change, right? You can't go through life and just, oh, woe me. Life is unfair. Right? We have a God who says, I can do the impossible for you. Let's change your mindset. Romans says it this way: do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Change your mindset. See, this verse is normally for, hey, you can't stick to the things of this world and you shouldn't do the bad things. You need to change your mindset when you become a Christian. Yes, that's good. But if you're a Christian, if you believe in a God that's all powerful, that's almighty, I got to change my mindset to believe the same thing and know the same thing and accept the same thing. It's not good for me to believe in a God who's all powerful if I don't change my mindset and say, I actually believe it, let's start working. You need to change your mindset. Step 3. It's easy. It sounds easy, but it's harder. Don't give up. Endure and take risk. Right? Great. We've examined ourselves. We've now made a plan. Now you're telling me not to give up. See, this woman had courage and did not give up. She believed in herself enough to struggle. She believed in herself enough. Yes, right? She wasn't a Christian. She just had heard about Jesus, but she believed enough in her cause to struggle. Right? And that is why we have movements like the civil rights movement. Right? They believed enough in their struggle, like to, this isn't right. We need to do something about it. Right? Immigration laws and all that. We protest the Me Too movement. Hey, this isn't right. We need to do something about it. We believe enough in our cause to make change. On a side note, go vote if you're registered. Make change that way. Right? There's not enough to just complain about it. Let's do something about it. As a Christian nation, let's do something about it. It's not just, great, I've planned it, and there's a plan, but how do I execute it? You start walking. You start doing things. You start doing things towards that goal, and you don't give up. Romans 5:3-4 says it this way: more than that, we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that sufferings produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. That means I'm not totally happy for the situation I'm in. I'm not totally happy that I'm struggling. But I know that if I keep pushing forward, if I keep going, if I keep moving, this is going to build character. This is going to build endurance. It's going to build perseverance. And I'm going to keep going, and I keep going because I believe not only in myself, not only in the cause that I'm working towards, but I believe in a God who's opening the ways for me. This is almost Star Wars-like. Right? Like Princess Leia, you're our only hope. But to get to that hope, they had to battle a whole bunch of things, and I've lost many of you with that Star Wars reference. But we have to battle, we have to fight. If not, there's no point in it. She took risk knowing that consequences of breaking sacred rules in coming into contact with people. What does that mean? She took a risk knowing that, hey, if I touch someone, they're going to be unclean. If I even touch Jesus, he's going to be unclean. I'm going to be the one that made Jesus unclean. Think about that for a minute. You're going to be the one to get that person in trouble. Right? You guys know Tiffany Haddish? Crazy ghetto comedian. And she says a story about driving Will Smith somewhere, and we all know who Will Smith is. And she says that in that story, she's like, oh my goodness, I don't want to be the one to kill Will Smith. Right? That was this lady's mentality. I don't want to be the one to get Jesus in trouble. I don't want to be the one to make Jesus dirty. And that is a risk she was willing to take after not giving up. She pushed through that crowd. She made her way, and she finally touched Jesus' garments. She didn't give up. And how do we know this was a risk? Luke said it this way, Luke 8:47. When the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him, declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. Right? She didn't give up. She made a plan and she pushed through the crowd, and maybe she touched a few people. We don't know. But the thing is that she just took a risk and she didn't give up. Step 4. This is the most obvious one, I think, for us Christians. but we fail to do it. Reach out to God. Most obvious one, but I would want to say 90% of the time we don't. We reach out to our friends. Like this woman, we reach out to our doctors. We reach out to Miss Cleo, to a card reader, to the fortune cookie, to the lotto, and God bless the person who won that money. May it be used for good, right? But we reach everywhere else but the one and only person we should reach out to. Why and how do we reach out to God? One, have faith. This woman had enough faith to believe that she would be well. She had heard stories. She had heard about the great things, right? And just like we have heard about the great changes in people's lives when they come to God, the great things that happen that when you become a Christian, we hear those things and we become a Christian. I'm like, oh, this isn't what it was. This isn't what I was told. Have faith that it will get better. See, this woman put into practice what Hebrews 11:1 says. It says, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. She had faith that she was going to get better as soon as she touched Jesus. She was proclaiming her healing without knowing that she was going to be healed. What if it failed? What if she touched Jesus' garments and nothing happened? Because if you think about her faith system, the way she envisioned this, it's kind of flawed. Right? I know we've seen a lot of infomercials and late night TV where they're selling the holy oil or the holy garment. Right? And if you touch this, if you rub this over your forehead, you're going to be healed 100%. If you give me $20 a month, you will be healed. That was her faith system. If I touch his clothes. But even in that, we later find out, Jesus didn't. He cared. It didn't matter how flawed her faith was. The important thing is she had faith. Do you get that? See, to Jesus, it matters that you have faith, that you believe, right? That you have assurance for things that you want. That you have a conviction for things that you don't see. We don't see God physically, but we know he's there. We've experienced his presence. We've experienced his strength. This weekend, for those of you guys who don't know, this past weekend, my dad suffered a mini stroke, a TIA. For those of you who know my dad, the most joyful person ever, cracks a joke every time. To see him laying in bed 4 days straight, to see him come home and barely be able to walk, it tore me apart. And to have faith that he's going to be fine again took so much of me. See, when we act out in faith, great things happen. Have faith. James 2:14-16 says it this way, because faith also needs actions. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warmed, and be filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is it? What good is it to say, I have faith in God and not do anything about that faith? Right? It's the times like this woman where she was sick, where God calls you and says, you need to have faith right now that things are going to get better. They may not be going the way you want them to. You're not seeing the things you want to see, but have faith, my daughter, my son, that things are going to get better. Have faith that the trial and tribulations you're going through is only going to be used to glorify my name, and watch how I work with you. Have faith, but also put it into action. This verse says, what good is it to see the poor and the homeless in our cities if we're not doing anything about it? What good is it to say, hey, brother, God bless you, if you really don't mean it? Right? I remember Gavalier was preaching here, and he shared a story where someone said, God bless you, and he didn't look at him, and he made him look at him and say, God bless you one more time. See, that holy greeting that we say to each other, God bless you, do we really mean it when we say it? What good is it to have faith and believe that a God can bless someone if we really don't mean it or intend to bless someone? What good is it to see the poor in our congregation, the poor of spirit, the poor of money, the poor of anything, and not do anything about it? Faith also needs action. Faith also needs works. And the beautiful thing about faith is that it actually works. If you put it into practice, it works. Like this woman, right? Luke 8:48 says, and in the video, this woman says, and Jesus said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." See, it wasn't the piece of clothing that she touched. It was her faith in the one that can actually do it. See, she examined herself and said, "This isn't going well. I need to change." She made a goal. I need to be healed. I need to touch Jesus' hand. And she planned for it. And now she put that faith that she had into action. See, it moves. We need to reach out to God in faith, but also work towards that faith. See, there's a passage in the Bible that says, ask for anything in prayer, but have faith, right? What good is it for me to believe, in my case, that my God's going to be well, but I don't pray for him? And I'm not condemning anyone. What good is it to be sick and you get medications, but you don't take those medications? Yeah, by faith, God can heal you, but God made science for a reason. God uses science. God made doctors. God made lawyers. Right? So use what we've been given. Use those resources. Right? When God created man and woman and all the animals, he said, hey, go. Use this. Use his resources. And I'm not bashing anyone's belief or anything, but it's great to have faith, but also I need to do something about it. Right? I need to do something about it. I just can't say I'm a Christian and not do anything. Faith also involves action. And the last reason why we need to reach out to God, or why we should, or why we do, is God will not turn you down. See, in a big multitude of people, right? In the passage, he asked, who touched me? As soon as she touched his garments, Jesus turns around and says, there's a disturbance in the force. I felt power leave me. That's how much faith this woman had. Jesus felt power leave him. How many times had he healed the blind and the sick, and he made people walk? And it doesn't say that he said, power has left me. This instance, this moment in time, this breakthrough for this woman, Jesus felt power leave his body. That's how much it was. He turns around and says, who touched me? And his disciples are like, dude, you see these number of people? Do you see how many people you're surrounded by? And you say, who touched me? It's like, really? You guys ever been to a concert or a place real full and people are touching you? You're like, hey. But who do you say hey to? There's so many people. That's what his disciples were saying. Jesus, I understand you're God. And let me talk to you about how humanity and the human aspect works. There's so many people here. You're going to ask who touched you. But he says, no, someone's touched me. See, in that multitude, in those sea of faces, God still had time for this one woman. And that is why we reach out to God. Because in the sea of faces, in the millions and millions of people that are on this earth, God still makes time for you. We're undeserving of it. We're imperfect. We're not faithful, but he is. Right? He is God Almighty, all-powerful, can be anytime, any place he wants to be. He can do anything he wants to. He knows everything and anything. But still, this awesome God that we serve, that we worship, that we listen, that we talk about, still takes time for you. How many of us take time for him? 24 hours of our lives a day. For most of us, 8 hours are for work or school. The other, what's 24 minus 8? 16? What are you doing? Well, I got to get my 8 hours of sleep. All right, so 8 and 8, 16. What are you doing with the other 8? Well, I got to cook for my children. I got to do their homework. Well, no, you can't do their homework. I got to help them with their homework. You don't understand, Johanan. I got a baby in the way. I got to paint that room. I got to build the crib. You don't understand, Johanan. I'm a single parent. So you don't understand. I'm devastated. I'm depressed. But still reach out to God. Yes, and you're right. I may not understand at all. But God does. That one God that this lady had faith in, the one God that we proclaim to have faith in, that same God that we just worshiped him a few minutes ago, is the same God that still makes time for you. Is the same God that still loves you and cares for you. Is the same God that still sent his one and only son on that cross to die for your sins. And if you haven't accepted him in your life, I encourage you that you make that today. And I'm not telling you that it's going to be all golden roses and it's going to be great. Yes, some of this life is going to be great. But when we go through those trials and tribulations, when we go through those valleys and the times of shadow, guess what? There's still a God out there looking for you and looking toward you, wanting to help you. That is why we turn to God, right? And some of us turn to him like he's a genie or a wishing well. And again, flawed in our system, but God still makes time for you. Right? The psalmist, King David, who writes these awesome poems and everything, wrote it this way. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it all together. That's so beautiful to think about. That God knew my whole sermon before I even gave it. That's incredible. God knows how upset I'm going to be if the Dodgers lose tonight. But God knows that. Right? He doesn't deal with sports. He doesn't get into sports. But he knows us. Right? So there's no use in praying for the win. That's just. But God knows us. The same God that made you, the same God that formed you inside your mother's womb, is the same God that's with you today and will continue to be with you. That is why we reach out. See, God isn't a lucky charm or a saint or an idol. He is a living God. A living God that sent his son. And when he sent his son and that sacrifice was made, that veil tore in two, meaning, hey, there is no need for you to go through a human anymore to get to me. You have a direct connection with me. And I love you so much. I made you for this moment. And yes, my child, I understand the struggle that you're going through, but you and I, by faith, are going to get through this. See, this woman just had heard about Jesus. We are awesome and blessed that we know, that we've believed, and we are here in church. And we can recognize Jesus is in God's power. But this woman just was out of hearsay. And she had faith enough to act. She examined herself. She made a plan. And yes, all that good stuff. But she reached out to God. And that's the most important thing. Because without God, there's nothing that we can do. The Bible says in Proverbs, don't lean on your own understanding. Don't lean on your own strength. It's me. It's I. When he sent Moses to deliver his people from Egypt, he says, tell him it's me, it's I am. And that should be enough. I am. What is God for you today? What do you need him to be? He's reaching out. He wants that relationship with you. He wants to take care of you. Again, I may not understand. I may not know the struggles. And as the worship team makes their way up here, I may not understand what you're going through. And you may not even be going through something at all, like I mentioned in the beginning. But God is there. I may not understand your struggles, your trials, your tribulations, but God does. Let me ask you to stand with me in this moment. And I'm going to ask you to take a leap of faith. In the short minutes that we have here, I'm going to ask you to just close your eyes and ponder and think and examine yourself. Examine where you're at. Examine where you've been. And maybe there's something you're struggling with in your life right now. Maybe there's not enough money to cover the rent. For me, my dad is sick. That's my concern. You may be on a spiritual low. You may not be reaching out to God the way you want to. And I'm asking you to just, whether you want quietly or out loud, just pray. And reach out to God. Reach out to him in faith and say, Lord, this is my struggle in this moment. This is what I'm struggling with. And God, look at your people this morning. Examine our hearts, examine our minds. Lord, and just be with us. Thank you for sending your son, Lord, to die on the cross for us. Thank you for giving